Testimony in the New York versus Trump trial will resume soon as the defense gets set to take its turn questioning Michael Cohen. Cohen testifying earlier today about meeting with former President Trump at the White House and detailing how he was reimbursed after making the Stormy Daniels payment. Laura Ingraham is host of the Ingraham Angle. She was also a white-collar criminal defense attorney and a clerk for Justice Clarence Thomas. She's been inside the courtroom for today's proceedings and joins us now outside the courthouse. I don't know if you got a chance to hear any of Lanny Davis, but he said that if Michael Cohen can retain his composure under cross-examination, he will be a credible witness for the jury. What do you think?
Well, what do you think? What did you expect Lanny Davis was going to say? I mean, no offense, I love Lanny, but come on, guys. You know what I tend to do, and this is what I did when I was a practicing attorney, just a few blocks away as a law clerk at the federal courthouse. Well, you have to actually look at the statute. What's the statute charged? Okay, I know that's a novel concept these days to actually look at the crime, but it's 17-152. Okay, so that's in New York, that's the bootstrap crime that they're trying to knock up to the felony from the falsification of business records. That requires intent. The intent requires that the prosecution show that Donald Trump not only intended to falsify these ledger entries, which are just administrative ledger entries for why these payments were made. So he intended to do that with the intent to commit a state campaign finance violation. Now, you saw, well, you didn't see, I saw in court, Judge Merchan repeatedly sustained the defense's objections to Michael Cohen being asked, did you think he committed a campaign finance violation, or paraphrasing to that effect, and the judge sustained that. Now, why did he sustain that? Because that's the whole point of this case, right? Under this theory of novel application of this particular law, Donald Trump needed to intend to commit a state campaign finance violation of the federal election, which is what? The FEC, Federal Election Commission, which we all know by now, declined to prosecute this case. So while there's lots of interesting kind of nuances about how Michael Cohen felt slighted and how he felt that he was getting subliminal messages through these tweets, the bottom line, which Lanny did not address, the intent to falsify an entry with the further intent of committing this extra crime and concealing it, that has not been demonstrated. That has not been shown. So, sorry, Lanny. Nice try.
Laura, great stuff. And what kind of color can you give us from inside the courtroom? Nobody seems, as John noted at the top of the hour, nobody has anything nice to say about what it feels like in there.
Well, it's a little uncomfortable. My great assistant Haley gave me a thing to sit on, so because that helped. But I'm watching the jury. It's interesting to watch the jurors. They are taking this very seriously, which is what you would hope from a jury of your peers. But you try to look at body language and people's facial expressions. It's hard to take away a lot. But I will say that the jurors seemed to get a little weary as time went on. Shifting in their seats, which all of us were doing. But this Michael Cohen drama, it became kind of a psychodrama to me at one point, where again he comes across as a man who wants to be loved by this big organization, wants to be loved and validated by President Trump at every turn. And he wasn't a great lawyer. I said this repeatedly on the Angle. Should never have been hired in the first place. But what else was some low-level administrative person in accounting going to put on that ledger other than legal services when all of the invoices said Michael Cohen, Esquire, personal attorney for Donald Trump? That's what all of his invoices stated, one after the other. They went through this laborious process in court today. Every single count represents, of course, another entry, another check written for a monthly retainer. But this is just an administrative bookkeeping issue. But Alvin Bragg actually believes that this is going to be, his political nirvana. And I think in the end, from what I could gauge, just if I could look at the body language here, I don't know if he's going to get a unanimous verdict for this very novel application of the law with no intent that I could see, other than Michael Cohen's own words that this is what the president intended and was it wanted to happen. I think this cross is going to be brutal this afternoon, and I cannot wait to eat something and then to go.
We'll let you get lunch in just a second, but I want to ask you this question because there seems to be a bit of a contradiction here. Yesterday, Cohen testified that Trump said to him, we need to get rid of the Stormy Daniels thing until after the election because if I win, it becomes irrelevant. If I lose, it doesn't really matter. So to this point where if he wins, it becomes irrelevant. So he won the election. Why would there, if it becomes irrelevant, why would there be a need to cover up the reimbursement to Cohen?
Well, I think that's an excellent point. I know Andy McCarthy, I believe, has been writing about that as well. And again, it's just another chink in the armor of Michael Cohen as this star witness. And in my view, comes across as obviously someone who I'm sure has remorse for whatever he thinks he did and her family. And we had to hear about the ankle bracelet and all that. It's like, dude, don't commit tax evasion, okay? And don't plead guilty to perjury if you don't want to do time. That's what happens when you plead guilty to perjury. Remember, the prosecution at one point was threatening, not this prosecution, but in his case, he felt a lot of pressure, it seems, about his wife and what they might do to his wife. So when a husband gets his wife threatened by potential prosecution by the federal government, they'll say and do perhaps just about anything. So I think you're going to hear a lot from the prosecution this afternoon about this man's credibility. And again, the elements of the crime, which, a lot of people watching this in the park and watching on television, we don't talk about it. It is a crime if you can prove intent to commit the crime, the falsification of the records, and intent to conceal or in furtherance of another crime. Neither has been proven. And I say this as a member of the D.C. and California bar, although I'm inactive right now because I'm talking to you guys.
Well, it's all going to be back underway shortly. The former president likely to return to the courtroom about half hour from now, and cross-examination begins 2:15 Eastern Time. Laura, thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.